Welcome back for episode 7 of the Fame Files. This deep dives, and it's going to be a little different.
Yeah,
A little more somber, I think we could say.
yeah,
It's something we all know is inevitable in the world of fame, and yet always feels jarring when it happens.
indeed it is.
And this time, we're going to be looking at the emotional In Memoriam segment
Right.
from the 2025 Grammy Awards.
The Grammys were held on February 2nd.
Right. And, watching that segment,
Mm-hmm.
it always brings a wave of emotions.
Yes.
And this year, I have to admit, some really hit hard.
Of course, and I think that's a feeling that's shared by a lot of folks online as well. We're seeing a lot of reactions from fans, especially surrounding the tribute to Liam Payne.
Yeah, there's a real sense of shock still, even though it's been a few months since his passing.
Mm-hmm.
One fan on X said, "In Memoriam," starting with that Liam clip, "I'm sobbing."
Mm-hmm.
Another commented, "Them playing Story of My Life while previewing the In Memoriam segment. Dear Christ, no, I'm unprepared."
Wow. It's interesting how that song in particular seems to be hitting a nerve with so many fans. Story of My Life was a huge hit for One Direction, of course. But in this context, it takes on a whole new layer of meaning. It's almost like a collective reflection on Payne's life cut tragically short.
Absolutely. He was only 31 when he died back in October, a fall from a hotel balcony in Buenos Aires.
Right.
And the fact that it was such a sudden, unexpected accident, it just makes it all the more heartbreaking.
It really does highlight that fragility of life, even for those who seem larger than life on stage, And for a group like One Direction, whose music is so intertwined with youth and optimism,
Yeah,
it's particularly jarring.
definitely. And I think that's why seeing Story of My Life juxtaposed with those images of pain in the Memoriam segment was so powerful and maybe even painful for some fans. It forces you to confront the reality of his absence in a very stark way.
Yes, I think that's a good point. And it's interesting that the Recording Academy chose to play that song, Story of My Life, during a commercial break. Almost tucked away. It almost adds another layer to it. Perhaps it was a conscious decision to give fans a moment to process those emotions privately before moving on with the show.
That's a good point. It's like they understood the weight of that song in that moment and
Yeah.
didn't want it to get lost in the shuffle of the rest of the awards.
Exactly. And it speaks to the power of music to evoke such strong feelings, especially when it's tied to personal memories and loss.
Of course, Liam Payne wasn't the only artist we lost last year. The In Memoriam segment included a long list of names, each representing a unique contribution to the world of music.
Mhm.
We saw tributes to legends like Chris Christopherson,
Mm-hmm.
Mandisa,
Yes.
Phil Lesh of the Grateful Dead.
Toby Keith, Sam Moore, Tito
Mhm.
Jackson's, many, many more.
Wow.
It's a diverse group representing so many genres and eras of music, and it serves as a reminder that even though individual artists may pass on, their music continues to live on, connecting us across generations.
It does.
Yeah. And speaking of impact, there was a separate tribute earlier in the evening for another icon we lost last year, Quincy Jones.
Absolutely. Quincy Jones, a true legend. He passed away last November at 91, and his contributions to music are just immeasurable.
Right. And I think what's so fascinating here is that you have these two very different losses represented at the Grammys.
Yeah.
Liam Payne, taken far too young, and then Quincy Jones, a life that spanned nearly a century, leaving behind this incredible legacy.
And both tributes, in their own ways, spark such an outpouring of emotion from fans. It really shows how music connects us across generations.
It does.
Someone might have grown up listening to Quincy Jones,
Right.
while another person might have just discovered Liam Payne's solo work.
Uh-huh.
But both of those artists and their music
Yeah.
meant something profound to someone out there.
It speaks to how music transcends individual experience and becomes something bigger. It becomes part of our collective memory. Even if you didn't personally connect with an artist's work, you understand the impact they had on others, on the culture.
Right. And I think that's why the In Memoriam segment at the Grammys always resonates so deeply.
Mm-hmm.
It's a shared experience of remembrance and reflection, a chance to acknowledge the role that music plays in all of our lives.
And it also prompts us to think about our own relationship with music.
Yeah.
What songs or artists have truly resonated with us?
Right.
The ones that bring back specific memories or that helped us through difficult times.
Yeah, that's what I find so interesting about these tributes is they can be very personal,
Mm-hmm.
even though it's a public event.
Right.
Each person watching is having their own individual reaction,
Mm-hmm.
their own memories surfacing.
It's a moment of collective mourning, but also a deeply personal one. And I think that's what makes it so powerful.
Yeah, it is. And that leads us to a question we wanted to pose to you, our listener. If there were a tribute to your life, what song or artist would you want to be included and why?
It's a question that encourages a fascinating kind of self-reflection. What pieces of music have become so interwoven with your personal story that they would represent the essence of you?
Yeah. It's a beautiful thought, really.
It is, and it doesn't have to be just one song or artist. It could be a whole playlist, a whole soundtrack to your life.
I love that. Yeah, a soundtrack to your life.
Yeah, those songs that have been there through thick and thin, that have marked different chapters, different emotions.
Yeah, the songs that make you laugh, the songs that make you cry, the songs that make you feel like you can conquer the world.
Exactly. And it's fascinating to think about how those songs can even change over time.
Ooh, that's so true. A song that meant one thing to you in high school might take on a whole new meaning years later.
Absolutely.
It's almost like the song itself is evolving alongside you.
And it becomes this incredibly rich tapestry of personal experience woven into the music.
Wow, that's beautifully put. So as we wrap up this deep dive into the Grammys
Yeah.
in Memoriam segment, we want to leave you with that thought.
Think about the music that defines your story. What songs would be on your soundtrack and why? Because in the end, music is a legacy we all leave behind, whether we're a global superstar or someone who just loves to sing in the shower. It's a powerful force that connects us all, and that's something worth celebrating. Thanks for joining us for this episode of the Fame Files. Keep those soundtracks playing.